The art of the episode title is something that I take very seriously. A good title will give you some sort of hint on what the episode will be about, without spoiling anything of course, and it might be a cool sounding word, some kind of clever play on words, something that only makes sense until after you watch the episode, or any number of things. And because I have literally nothing better to do, I thought it would be fun to go through the titles for every episode of Breaking Bad and do a tier list to see which ones I like the most, and which ones I hate. Sound good? No? Well, I'm doing it anyway. Starting with Breaking Bad Season 1, Episode 1, Pilot. This one doesn't really count because that's just what every pilot for any show is called, so based on that I can just give it an F for zero originality. There aren't even any pilots or planes in this episode. On the DVD and Blu-rays the episode is called Breaking Bad instead, which makes sense but still doesn't exactly inspire me. Episode 2, Cats in the Bag. Now this is more like it. This one is good because it ties in with the next episode. I like when they do creative stuff like that. The phrase cats in a bag refers to keeping a secret, probably in reference to Walt's cancer diagnosis which he conveniently hasn't told anyone about yet. This one I'd probably give a B. Episode 3, and the bags in the river. Kind of the same story as the last one. It's the second half of that whole phrase, cats in the bag and the bags in the river, which makes sense since the episode wraps up this first story arc with Crazy 8 and the disposing of him and Emilio. And the bag being chucked in the river probably refers to Walt finally opening up about his cancer to both Domingo and Skylar. B tier. Episode 4, Cancer Man. Pretty lame title. The episode is mostly about Walt's cancer and how much it sucks, but it just sounds kinda stupid. This one's an E. Episode 5, Grey Matter. Another kind of boring one. Like yeah, the episode's about grey matter, but you couldn't come up with something a bit more interesting. Not terrible or anything, but they could have tried a bit harder. D tier. Episode 6, Crazy Handful of Nothing. Now this one is quite a bit better. It's kind of long, but also very memorable. Not just for the uniqueness of the phrase, but also that's referring to the biggest moment of the episode, when Walt struts into Tuco's lair with his crazy handful of not meth. As you'll later see, I'm usually more biased towards one-word titles, but I can also appreciate a wacky one like this. B tier. Episode 7, a no rough stuff type deal. Kinda similar to the crazy handful thing, except I don't really like this one at all. It's a quote from Fargo, which is cool.
This was supposed to be a no rough stuff type deal.
Don't ever interrupt me, Jerry. Just shut the fuck up.
And it definitely refers to the deal that happens in this episode, which kinda ends up being the opposite of not so rough. But yeah, I just don't like it for some reason. Maybe it's because it doesn't roll off the tongue nearly as well as Crazy Handful of Nothing does. E tier. Season 2, Episode 1, 737. This is the first time the writers try to do a little Easter egg hunt of the episode titles, with this one being the classic 737 down over ABQ thing, where if you use the titles from each of the episodes with one of those stupid teddy bear intros, it just tells you what happens in the last episode. It's a great idea that they have more success with later down the road, but this one doesn't really work for me, since it's not exactly hard to figure it out, and your reward is just a spoiler. At least this title kinda relates to the actual episode, since Walt says he needs $737,000 to be content or whatever, and for that, this one gets the C tier. Season 2, Episode 2, Grilled. Not sure why, but I love this title. It just fits so well for the episode for no real reason in particular. As the Breaking Bad wiki eloquently says, grilled could refer to 3 different things. Walt and Jesse are grilled by Tuco, Tuco's dental jewelry, and Tuco cooks the steak for his burritos on a grill. A tier. Season 2, Episode 3, Bit by a Dead Bee. I don't really get this one at all. It's apparently a running gag from some movie I haven't seen, and as a title it's just kinda clunky and pointless, so I'm just gonna throw this one down in the F tier. Season 2, Episode 4, Down. This one sort of has multiple meanings, first being the second of the teddy bear cold opens, and also the episode just kind of being a downer for everyone involved. It's fine, I guess. C tier. Season 2, Episode 5, Breakage. Jesse says the word breakage in the episode.
Dude, it's called breakage, okay? Like Kmart, shit breaks.
Beyond that, it's just a word and it doesn't really correlate with anything. E tier. Season 2, Episode 6, Peekaboo. This is a very solid title. It's a good reference to the most memorable storyline in this episode, that being Jesse's encounter with his kid. Plus peekaboo is a pretty unique word, so it stands out more for me. B tier. Season 2, Episode 7, Negro y Azul. This one refers to the silly little music video that plays at the start of the episode. Beyond it being the bane of my existence trying to pronounce it, I don't really have anything against this one, nor anything great to say about it either. C tier. Season 2, Episode 8, Better Call Saul. Now we're cooking with gas. This is what I call a perfect title. It refers to the new guy on the block, Saul Goodman. It's his catchphrase, which is said repeatedly in the episode, and it's catchy as hell. All that alone would already be enough to make it a great title, but it's aged like a fine wine with the addition of a spin-off show about that funny lawyer being named after this episode. And then on top of that, Saul has an episode called Breaking Bad, which features scenes that take place during this episode, and is the first episode to feature Walt and Jesse, the same way this was the first to feature Saul. Enough said, this is an easy S tier. Season 2, Episode 9, 4 Days Out. This is another great title. It perfectly sums up the plot of the episode, that being Walt and Jesse's little desert trip to cook some blue and hang out. Not much else to say really. It's succinct, to the point, and memorable. A tier. Season 2, Episode 10, Over. Kinda tired of talking about these teddy bear ones at this point. Doesn't really relate to the episode at all. E tier. Season 2, Episode 11, Mandala. This word means circle of life, which fits with this episode starting with Combo getting murked, and ending with Skylar about to give birth while Walt watches TikTok on his phone. Good meaning and an interesting word, this one's a B. Season 2, Episode 12, Phoenix. Kinda similar to the last one, a phoenix is a bird that dies and comes back to life. It's kinda iffy this time though, since Jane does die but definitely doesn't come back to life, and Holly is born this episode, but that's way before Jane dies. Jane is also from Phoenix, Arizona, so it could just be referring to that, but I honestly just like this title because Phoenix is a cool word. I'm giving it a C. Season 2 Finale, ABQ. This is the last Matt 737 down over ABQ thing I've already talked about ad nauseum. Not much else to say really. E tier. Season 3, Episode 1, No Mas. Spanish for the phrase no more. This episode is all about Walt wanting to leave the meth business, and Skylar wanting to leave the Walter White business. This title is fine on its own, but is improved a lot by having a sister title a few episodes later that we'll get to. They probably could have just called it No More in English, but whatever. C tier. Season 3, Episode 2, Caballo Sin Nombre. Another Spanish title. This one is the song that Walt is singing at the beginning before getting harassed by that cop, as well as when he's in the shower at the end. Not much to say about this one. I prefer titles that represent the whole episode, not just one random scene. D tier. Season 3, Episode 3, IFT. I know I just said I like titles that are about a whole episode instead of just one moment, but this one is literally I fucked Ted. That shit is iconic, and going straight into A tier. Season 3, Episode 4, Green Light. There's a green light at the end of the episode. D tier. Season 3, Episode 5, Mas. Here's that sister episode to No Mas that I was talking about. This one simply being called More. Obviously in relation to Walt finally deciding to get back into cooking again, after Gus won him over with his bullshit speech about how a man provides and all that shit. Or as the Breaking Bad wiki suggests, it could also be about Hank's search for more RVs. C tier. Season 3, Episode 6, Sunset. The last scenes of the episode take place at sunset. That's it. D tier. Season 3, Episode 7, 1 Minute. Great title, refers to an iconic line which is followed by one of the more memorable set pieces of the show.
We're approaching your car. You have 1 minute.
B tier. Season 3, Episode 8, I See You. Multiple people see each other this episode, but more importantly, the title sounds like I See You, which is where the majority of the episode takes place. Cute play on words, this one's a C. Season 3, Episode 9, Kafkaesque. This is one of those titles where it's just a word that's said in the episode, but it's such an interesting word that it gets its own little moment of attention that elevates it above other similar titles.
Sounds kind of Kafkaesque.
Yeah. Totally Kafkaesque.
B tier. Season 3, Episode 10, Fly. I don't think you could have a more succinct title than this. The whole thing is about catching that pesky fly. They could have gone with a more abstract title, but the brutal simplicity of this one makes it an all-time favorite for me, and it's going straight in the S tier. Season 3, Episode 11, Abiquiu. It's the city that Georgia O'Keeffe is from, which is the artist who did the vagina paintings Jesse and Jane look at in the cold open. Doesn't really have any relevance outside of that. E tier. Season 3, Episode 12, Half Measures. This one and the next episode are two of my favorite titles for a couple reasons. It refers to Mike's best scene in the whole show, his talk with Walt about why he doesn't take half measures anymore, even though he still does on multiple occasions. Plus these last two episodes are so closely linked, I always think of them both as one mega episode, and the titles tie it all together. So I'm giving this one an A, and Season 3, Episode 13, Full Measure also gets an A. Walt ends up taking that full measure to save himself and Jesse, and that's the end of Season 3. I wanted to put both of these episodes in the S tier, but I want to save only the very best for the top of the ladder. I never like when people make tier lists and they put more than a couple things in the S tier. Kinda defeats the whole purpose in my opinion. Anyways, moving on to Season 4, Episode 1, Box Cutter. Normally I don't care too much for titles that refer to some random object in the episode, like if Plan and Execution was called Candle or some shit, but this one I think is fine because the titular box cutter appears at the very start of the episode and at the climax if you want to call it that, so it holds a bit more significance than other object-based titles. B tier. Season 4, Episode 2, 38 Snub. On the topic of object-based titles, this is just the name of a gun that Walt buys at the start of the episode. But once again, it does keep being shown throughout the episode, so it's not terrible by any means, but it's not exactly memorable either. D tier. Season 4, Episode 3, Open House. Refers not only to the greatest plotline of all time, Marie's kleptomania spree, but also to Jesse's house being open for anyone to come in and have a fun time. If only we got to see Marie visit to steal something for a collection. C tier. Season 4, Episode 4, Bullet Points. Walt and Skylar's silly discussion about their plan to sell Hank and Marie about Walt's supposed gambling problem features this phrase.
Script.
Bullet points.
Bullet points. Like a novella.
But there's also the Poyo's truck at the start of the episode that gets a bunch of bullet holes in it. Pretty lame title otherwise, D tier. Season 4, Episode 5, Shotgun. Jesse is riding shotgun with Mike for most of the episode, and for some reason this title just clicks for me. It's simple, effective, and tells you what a lot of the episode will be focusing on, so I'm giving it a B. Season 4, Episode 6, Cornered. This one is barely relevant at all. The wiki gives a couple explanations that are all pretty shaky at best, and it definitely is not memorable, so I'm throwing this one down in the F tier. Season 4, Episode 7, Problem Dog. This is named after what is easily the best scene of the episode, and one of, if not the best Jesse scenes, where he subtly tells the rehab group about killing Gale. This line reading just gets me every time.
You're nothing to me but customers!
S tier scene, B tier title. Season 4, Episode 8, Hermanos. This is of course referring to the last scene of the episode where Gus's butt brother is executed, which is a huge moment for Gus's character, and gives us that key detail that was missing from his story, and sets up his epic revenge in the following episodes. Pretty fine title, C tier. Season 4, Episode 9, Bug. Walt bugs Jesse's car, and that's about it. It does cause them to have a legendary fight over it, but this one's pretty weak. E tier. Season 4, Episode 10, Salute. This one's a classic, in reference to the whole sequence of Gus poisoning the entire cartel, including that bloated pimp Don Eladio. If you're gonna name your episode after a line of dialogue, this is definitely the one.
Salute!
B tier. Season 4, Episode 11, Crawl Space. This is one of those titles that makes no sense until after you've watched it, and it of course refers to that iconic scene with Walt going haywire in the crawl space. That moment is just so ingrained in my mind that it elevates the title a lot for me, even though it's just the name of a room, putting this one in A tier. Season 4, Episode 12, End Times. This one perfectly fits the vibe of the episode, since you can really feel the Gus conflict coming to a head after 2 whole seasons of it brewing. Plus Saul says the name of the episode, which is always a bonus.
Well, they're here. The end times, kid. End times.
What's that mean?
A tier. Season 4, Episode 13, Face Off. This is easily one of the best titles for an episode of all time, at least what I can think of off the top of my head. Walt and Gus are having their final confrontation, Gus and Hector also are, and to top it off, Gus's face gets blown off at the end. Just a beautifully simple and ironic title. S tier. Season 5, Episode 1, Live Free or Die. This is a pretty catchy title that's definitely stuck with me, even though its only real relevance is being on the back of Walt's license plate in the cold open, since apparently that's the motto of New Hampshire. It's also reflective of Walt's new Sigma mindset now that Gus is out of the picture, with him being the new top dog and feeling unstoppable. Gonna give this one a B. Season 5, Episode 2, Madrigal. It's just the name of a magical company that's introduced in this episode. It does play a big part in the episode, enough to warrant naming the episode after it, but it's also just really uncreative and forgettable. Chucking this one in D tier. Season 5, Episode 3, Hazard Pay. Mike's guys and their hazard pay are heavily focused on this episode, and the highlight scene of the episode is directly related to them, with Walt and Mike fighting over whether they should be paying this phantom tax or not. Fine title, C tier. Season 5, Episode 4, 51. I actually kinda hate this title. Yeah, Walt does turn 51 in this episode, and it's given quite a bit of focus, but also this is the 50th episode of a show, which is just one off 51, so that annoys me. If it was the 51st episode of a show, this would be an A tier title, but as it is, it's going all the way down an F. Season 5, Episode 5, Dead Freight. There is a dead person and a train. A tier. Season 5, Episode 6, Buyout. Multiple people in the process of being bought out this episode, mainly Mike and Jesse, but there's also Walt telling Jesse his story about how he took a buyout from Grey Matter, which may or may not be the root cause of all the problems in his life and everyone else's. A lot of these Season 5 titles are pretty basic, and this one is no different. C tier. Season 5, Episode 7, Say My Name. This one just drives me nuts, because the original title was Everybody Wins, which is way better than what we got in my opinion. The Say My Name scene gets more cringe every time I watch it, and naming the whole episode after this one scene at the very start is just kinda lame. I like the original title a lot more because of how ironic it is, since keen-eyed viewers would notice that no one wins in this episode, and in fact everyone loses. The only one who wins is Walt because he got rid of that annoying loser Mike. Plus it's the last line Walt said at the end of the previous episode.
Everybody wins.
Anyways, that title would have been an A, but as it is I'm throwing this one down to the F tier. Season 5, Episode 8, Gliding Over All. Walt glides over everyone as his meth business reaches new heights, and also the title is the name of a Walt Whitman poem, which of course comes back in a big way in that last scene. His title is a bit wordy, but it is appropriate, so it's a C. Season 5, Episode 9, Blood Money. Entering the final stretch of episodes, this is yet another title that is pretty much just a line said in the episode.
It's like you said, it's blood money.
Getting kind of bored of these ones, throwing it down a bit E tier. Season 5, Episode 10, Buried. Walt buries his money underground, and Declan's highly professional lab is in a bus buried underground. D tier. Season 5, Episode 11, Confessions. This is a great title. Not only does it refer to the silly little blackmail tape that Walt makes, outing Hank as the true evil behind Heisenberg, but there's also the much more important confession of Saul confirming to Jesse that Walt poisoned that kid Brock, in what is easily the best scene of the episode, and another of Jesse's best across the whole show. B tier. Season 5, Episode 12, Rabid Dog. This one is both a line in the episode and a callback to the Problem Dog episode we discussed earlier.
Because Jesse isn't just some rabid dog.
This one works even better for me since the rabid dog in question, Jesse, is the main focus of the episode, with all hands on deck trying to find him, until we realize that Hank managed to scoop him up. B tier. Season 5, Episode 13, Tohajali. The end of this episode takes place in Tohajali, which is definitely an important place, what with it being the first place Walt cooked meth and the buried money and whatnot, but naming the whole episode after it feels a bit lame. C tier. Season 5, Episode 14, Ozymandias. Now this is, excuse me, a damn fine episode title. It's a reference to the poem of the same name about this guy who was on top of the world, who then had his empire crumble around him. Kinda like that Minecraft Fallen Kingdom video. Anyway, the parallels between that poem and this episode couldn't be more clear, with Walt's entire world basically falling apart around him over the duration of the episode. By the end, he has nothing left except a barrel of cash. They even had Bryan Cranston read the poem as promo for the last season. Ozymandias may not be my favorite episode, but this title is for sure an S tier. Season 5, Episode 15, Granite State. The official nickname for the state of New Hampshire, this title obviously holds relevance since a lot of the episode takes place there, and if you look a bit deeper you could also say the phrase Granite State applies to the current situation most of the main characters are in. Good title, D tier. And lastly, the series finale, Felina. This one has 3 different meanings. First off, it's an anagram for finale, which is cute. Second, it's referring to the El Paso song that plays in the car at the start of the episode. And finally, it could be referencing the 3 elements Fe, aka iron, Li, aka lithium, and Na, aka sodium. Whatever that means is up to your interpretation, but just the anagram thing combined with the name sounding cool is enough for this one to get a thumbs up in my book. A tier. And there we have it, the complete tier list of Breaking Bad titles. I hope you all enjoyed this video that was essentially me reading off a Breaking Bad wiki, and be sure to subscribe because my next video is coming very soon. I promise.